What if I told you that you don't actually struggle with creating content that brings in sales? I know you're thinking, Siobhan, I'm making content, it's not making sales. What else could it possibly be? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you what is costing you sales, but most importantly, what you're going to be able to shift in your next piece of content that is going to drive more sales. I'm going to share with you the ARC formula because right now you are believing that your challenge is in not making content that's bringing in sales. But what you're really feeling and experiencing is the pressure of wanting to impress people with your content rather than impact people with your content. And this is why people aren't buying. And I really see this in people who are highly critical of themselves, the ones who pick apart every component of their personality, thinking it's not good enough. Imagine that you're in the shower and you get this light bulb moment of an idea, or you're driving down the road and you get this idea, this spark of inspiration, and you're like, ooh, that's a brilliant idea. That's going to make a good piece of content. But the moment you come home, you sit down to go make it into a post, your mind goes blank. That's because you have put on the filter of how do I say this so that it impresses people? You start to wonder, will other people in your industry see what you're saying and agree with you? Will people see you as credible? Will people see you as an authority? Will this piece of content be good enough to get really high engagement? You start second guessing just about everything. And the moment you apply this filter, your content becomes powerless. Not because your idea wasn't good enough, but because your idea is backed by hesitation. And the moment you hesitate, that's what your audience feels. Because here's the thing, your audience feels the space in between your words. They also hear everything that you aren't saying. So if that space and what you're saying is hesitation, that's actually what they're picking up on. And that doesn't build any trust. You got a scared type of content going out, and scared content don't make no money. So we can't have a scared piece of content online because that is what our audience is picking up on. And what are you afraid of? You're afraid of the image. You're afraid of how you might look in front of other people. So now you're attempting to be impressive rather than impactful. So how do you actually start to create content that is impactful and not impressive? You implement the ARC formula. Here's the really cool thing about ARC, A-R-C. I want you to imagine a circle, for example, that is the circumference. An arc is actually a portion of that circle. What does that look like? It looks like a bridge. So this ARC formula is the bridge for your audience to walk across. That is going to get them to the solution, to their desired result. So we've got your content creating this arc, this bridge that guides your people to their destination, to their transformation. And that is the purpose of content. So what is this ARC formula? A stands for authority. This is not about proving yourself. This is about standing firm on what you already know. And people tend to have fake authority. Fake authority is when you are attempting to make yourself look good. You're attempting to manufacture and engineer the image in someone else's mind. You want to make sure people see you as credible, people see you as the authority. But that's actually fake authority. Real authority is when you see, you hear, and you understand your audience, and they feel seen, heard, and understood. That is real authority. The Bible actually says we cannot serve two masters. I find this so fascinating. So when it comes to content, if we are making content all about ourselves and how impressive we are or how good we are, then the audience isn't going to feel seen, heard, and understood. They can't. because you are the center of your content as opposed to them being the center of your content. One sells and one doesn't make any money at all. So you want to make sure that you are creating the content that makes your audience at the center of it. Let's move on to C in the ARC formula. C is for certainty. This isn't about having the perfect message. This is about speaking with clarity and conviction that you know what you have to say is already valuable. People don't buy from people who are loud in the marketplace. They buy from people who are certain in the marketplace. And going back to the hesitation, if you have hesitation in your voice, in your content, then that is not certain. And that is why people aren't buying. And when you are attempting to be impressive, it's because the underlying tone of that is hesitation. And when you are hesitating, you aren't certain, and that does not build trust. This is what makes you over edit, over explain, and overthink. And anytime you are doing that with your content, that is diluting your content. It's watering it down because you're not really saying what you genuinely desire to say. You are saying what you think you need to say that is going to make you look good rather than being certain that what you have to say is going to solve someone's problem. So when you over edit, over explain, and overthink, this is your attempt to be impressive. And this is actually what creates a lot of uncertainty. I'm gluten and dairy free. So when I go to restaurants, one of my first questions is, can I have a gluten-free menu? But if there's something that I can conjure up on the menu that I might want to eat, then I'll ask a specific question. One of my favorite questions to ask is there butter in your rice? Because we all know when it comes to cooking, flavor really matters. Here's what's interesting about certainty. When the waitress or waiter, and I ask that question, is there butter in your rice? When they respond, I can automatically tell if they're certain or not. Some people kind of scratch their head and say, no, or they say, uh, no, there's no butter. They kind of scrunch up their face and they kind of have a hesitation in their voice. Now I'm doing one of two things. I'm either asking to speak to the chef, manager, or someone who has a concrete answer, or I just don't bother ordering that dish because I can't trust with certainty that there's no butter in their rice. And there's a lot of places that put butter and put all kind of weird things in their food to add flavor and to make it taste good. And I always find it funny how I can pick up on the fact that I can trust this person with what they're saying or I can't. It's the exact same way. And I give this other example a lot. When someone says, I'm sorry, you are either certain that they believe it or you're like, they're full of baloney. They don't believe what they're telling you at all. They're not really sorry. Why? It's because the energy behind the word is really what we're picking up on. We're hearing the words, but people are literally feeling you through the screen. And you're either pulling people in or you're pushing people out. And people are going to feel a distance between you and them if you aren't feeling certain. So this is about having conviction, not having the perfect message. And the R stands for resonance. This is not about looking good. This goes back to making sure that your audience feels seen, heard, and understood. And how you create resonance is actually by using my FAMS principle, which is sharing your story and teaching through frameworks, analogies, metaphors, and stories, because that is going to create resonance with them. And this way, you're not out there looking online to see what everybody else is doing. Instead of looking around online, you want to be leading your people across the arc to their solution. And if you're not creating content that is of resonance, then you'll fall into this comparison trap where you're looking at other people for your benchmark on if you're doing a good job with your content or not. That is not leading your people across the bridge, across the arc, and that's not creating any kind of resonance at all. This actually means that you are needing the validation for yourself. You're needing to feel good about the content. So, this is making sure that the resonance of your content is about you, and that will always repel the audience. If you are able to tell a story, share a framework, use an analogy, use a metaphor, that helps your audience understand or see their problem better, now that's about them and not about you. And that is what is going to create sales. But when you're attempting to impress people, you want people to resonate with you rather than you resonating with them. And that is the difference. So I'm going to give you 3 questions that you can actually ask yourself to ensure that you are using the ARC principle with your content. The first one is, does this fully express what I believe? You want to share content that sets your people free, not content that makes you look popular. It is the content that sets your people free that will often brush up against the edges of their personality and their character, making them really look at themselves, making them really feel challenged by what you're saying, but in a good way. So if you're really sharing what you believe, it is going to challenge people. It is going to make people dig a little bit deeper to take a look at themselves. And this is essential when you're creating content that is building a bridge to help people get to their transformation, to their desired result or solution, whatever it is you provide, whatever it is you sell. So, do you actually believe it, or are you just saying it because you want to look a certain way, or you want people in your industry to see you as another credible source? Second question is, will this shift the way my ideal client sees their problem? If it doesn't shift the way that your ideal client sees their problem, then chances are there's a lot of it or parts of it where you're making this about you. And what you're attempting to do now is shift how your content or shift how your audience sees you in the content versus shift how your audience sees their problem in your content. Very, very big difference. This is the difference between people buying from your content or not buying from your content. And the third question is, am I holding back out of fear or speaking from authority and conviction? You can feel it. You can feel when you are sharing something and you're like, ooh, yes, this is good because it serves my audience, versus if you're holding back and there's hesitation. If there's hesitation in your content, you're very likely going to experience a pressure around your chest. You might even feel kind of clogged in your throat. This is how we can sense if we're holding back or not. Sometimes our body will start to speak to us in a way where it's contracted and it's holding back, and the content we're creating doesn't feel free and open. So it's really essential that you ask yourself these 3 questions in order to deploy the ARC formula. If you enjoyed this video, I have a training down below in the description. It is my Cut the Noise training. I'm going to share with you my content authority formula. It is going to help you stand out and be seen without following trends so that you can make more sales. I will link that down below. I will see you all in another video. Bye.